Welcome to the Drum Shuffle, a podcast offering insights, perspectives, and conversations for drummers. I'm your host, Jamie Eads. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Drum Shuffle, episode number 4. Hope everybody's doing well out there this week. Want to ask a huge favor from everybody. Take just a couple of moments, go out on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever service you're using to listen to the show. Give us a star rating and a review if you enjoy the show. It continues our growth process here at the Drum Shuffle, and we really do appreciate it. We also love hearing from everybody throughout the week with questions, comments, or suggestions for the show. You can reach us, as always, at thedrumshufflepodcast@gmail.com. Thedrumshuffle.com is our web address, and I'm usually hanging out over at jamieeads.com. We have a great show for you this week. I'm very pleased to have joining me today Phil Varone from Saigon Kick, Skid Row, and most recently playing with Dragon Cartel. Now, kids, if you haven't heard of this band, this is Jake E. Lee's new project. Also has Anthony Esposito from Lynch Mob playing in the band. So it really is truly a super group of musicians. And Phil's going to tell us a little bit about what they're up to. So I really want to thank you for being here, but we're really excited to have Phil joining us. Phil was born in New York and moved to Florida at a fairly early age. Just been a fantastic drummer for a lot of years out there on the scene. So please help me welcome to the Drum Shuffle, Phil Varone. Hey Phil, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Hey, thanks for coming on the Drum Shuffle. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. Phil, I know you're a busy guy, so I promise not to take up too much of your time today, but I really wanted to, kind of go through chronologically. I know you're a New York guy and moved to Florida at a fairly early age. Tell us a little bit about how you became a drummer.
Well, it started in grade school in New York, actually, and they had a music program back in those days, and they came around and asked if people wanted to play. I believe it was like 4th grade, roughly, and I wanted to play trumpet. That was like the instrument that I thought was the coolest, but I had an issue with my ears back then, where I had to get an operation on them, like tubes in the ears type thing that kids go through.
Sure.
And because of that, the doctor wouldn't allow me to play trumpet because of the pressure to actually blow in the trumpet. And I told them that I wanted to play music, and they said, well, you can play drums, just wear earplugs or whatever, and it wouldn't affect anything. And that's how it kind of happened. It was by mistake, really. And then I started playing percussion in the orchestra. So from probably 4th till 8th grade, 7th grade, I played in orchestra. And then I moved to Florida. And during that time, though, I had a drum set in New York. My parents bought me a drum set that I didn't know how to set up or anything, and I just kind of, hit it. And I was playing Kiss records and Beatles and all kinds of stuff back then. That was like in the 70s, like 70, 77, 78. And then I moved to Florida in 1980 and kind of left everything behind. In fact, you want to hear something funny? My first drum set that I got is still it's in Florida now at my sister's house. I still have it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I actually want to redo it, kind of, and then just put it in my house. I don't want to play it, but I want to definitely do it and kind of, it would definitely be pretty nostalgic and cool. And it was my first drum set ever that I had. So, but one of the things that happened was my parents said, listen, we're going to move to Florida, take only the things that you want and I ended up leaving that drum set behind at my cousin's house. And that's how I got it back, because they put it in their basement, forgot about it, and then 40 years later I got it back. But yeah, so I didn't have drums or anything when I went to Florida, and I started playing golf. So I wanted to be a golf pro, and I started really getting into drafting. So I was in architecture, and that really was where I was at in school. I was on the golf team. I was doing architecture, and I was taking blocks of classes. I was working for Westinghouse, doing drawings for them and all this stuff, even as a kid. And in 10th grade, a buddy of mine, Tom Reinhardt, who's still my friend, said, "Hey, man, I heard you play drums." You know, he was like the tough guy in the school.
Sure.
And I said, well, I mean, I was in, I played percussion and stuff. He goes, "Well, you want to jam?" And I remember he came over to my house. We went to his house and got his guitar, and he had a crate amp. He brought it to my house, and I had nothing. So I got pots and pans, and I know it sounds cliche, but that's what it was, and wooden spoons. And he played Crazy Train.
Oh, wow.
Ozzy. I was blown away, because I had never heard an electric guitar like right in front of me. You know, I've only heard it on the radio. Like, I couldn't believe someone actually was playing a song like that, and I was just blown away by it. And I convinced my parents to get me a drum set, which they did. And then it just was from that point forward, playing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, you had quite a bit of success, as a drummer. Our listeners love to hear, the genesis of a great thing. So tell us a little bit about the formation of Saigon Kick and the success that you had there.
Well, we were all friends. We were playing the South Florida area, Fort Lauderdale, North Miami, that kind of thing, all the way to a little bit of Palm Beach. But it was 1988, and the funny part about Florida was, or any scene for that matter, is a very, very incestuous music scene. So everybody kind of played with everybody at that point. I was in a band with Jason Beeler, the guitar player, for, probably a couple of years before Saigon Kick. And, we hated each other, and he thought I sucked. It was like that kind of stuff. It's always like the rival. Jason is a funny guy because he was very unpopular as a kid. And not that I was popular, but he was very much a hermit. He kind of just went into his room and just practiced guitar, and he got really great fast. He was one of the best guitar players, and he was, way ahead of us as far as playing wise. So every time we got in a band with him, and I sucked. I was just starting, you got to start somewhere. But I think playing with good people also makes you better. So playing with him was definitely something that made me better. But up until Saigon Kick, they had a band called Toy Soldier, and it was Tom DeFile, Matt Kramer, Jason, and a guy named Josh. Now, Josh left the band. He was a drummer, a great drummer, and he went and joined River Phoenix's band.
Oh, wow.
Him and River, we're really great friends. So he was playing with River Phoenix, and that left the drumming seat vacant, and those guys were like, "Listen, we want to start over. Let's just try to write all new material." And that was really the formation of Saigon Kick. They came to me. I still tell those guys, like, jokingly, I'm like, the only reason why they let me in the band is because I had a really cool drum set. Because I sucked.
It's kind of the old story, that the guy that you hire to be the singer is the guy that has the biggest PA, right?
Well, exactly. And it really is kind of like that. We laugh about it now, but I had this incredible drum set because right out of high school, I worked for this production company, and I used to drive celebrities, or I would run front of house for like the old people circuit. So I was like, I would drive, I would drive artists like Al Martino and Margaret Whiting and who else? Carol Lawrence, and all these amazing, the Four Lads, all these bands or these artists that were, did the old senior citizen tour of these great theaters. So I was making a ton of cash, so I just bought this custom drum set from Resurrection Drums, who I later went to work for. So I had cases, I had drums and everything. So I really think that was a factor. But once we got together as a band, it kind of just really, it gelled quick. And within about a year, we basically took over the South Florida music scene. There was nothing else there. So that led to the record deal,
Sure.
which was kind of like, we couldn't believe it, because Friday night, Jason Flom and Michael Wagner were in South Florida watching us play, and then Monday morning we're in LA recording. It was that fast.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was whirlwind stuff. And it's funny, I talk about my experience with recording. And one of the things, even today, which I want, when people ask me advice on playing drums, kids ask, or any drummers for that matter, before I did the first record, I called a buddy of mine, great drummer named Keith Cronin, who played drums for Pat Travers as well as Clarence Clemens. Just an incredible guy. He was in a local scene. He was in the local scene, and he got the Pat Travers gig, so he kind of made it, as far as we were concerned. He was like, oh, cool, he's playing with Pat Travers.
Sure.
Incredible drummer, though. And he was gracious enough to come down to my rehearsal and just kind of sit with me and work me through click track stuff. Because I really, up until then, I really hadn't played the click tracks. So I really didn't understand, the click track and how it works, when it comes down to playing these parts within the songs, how the parts work within the song. He really kind of gave me some insight in that, and that helped a lot. And then, I'm in LA. I'm sitting in a studio. We have a record deal. This is 3 days after our show. I'm 20-something years old. I'm shitting myself, basically.
Of course.
And Michael Wagner, I looked through the glass, and there's Michael Wagner, who pretty much is a producer that produced every hit up until then. Every band, from Doc and Motley, Poison, Ozzy, you name it, Alice Cooper, except it's, the gold and platinum was incredible. And so
that's a lot of pressure.
Really, a lot of pressure. He brings in this amazing kit, this DW kit that was handmade, one of the first ones from Dr. Drums. I think it was the company and the tech. Anyway, long story short, we ended up played everything live. He just goes, I want to hear it live the way I saw it. So the whole band set up together, and we all played. And I played to a click track, but for a couple of songs. But as soon as we got done with the first track, and I don't remember what the first track was. I want to say it was New World. But I hear the talk back, and he goes, I'll buy that for $1. And that was it. And that was the start of like, okay, I have confidence now. So, I'll never forget that. It's those little things that along the way that kind of, made you good. And that was one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that first record, of course, was great. But I think it's the second record that you guys did, that kind of blew up. And I know it was kind of a trudge, but that record really, it came out right after you guys finished touring on the first album. So you pretty much lived either on the road or in the studio for a great period of time there.
Yeah, the second record was it was weird because we decided to go to Sweden on that record, and which was, still to this day, the worst decision of our lives. Working with Ronnie Lottie, of course, was a great thing because he's an incredible engineer, and the studio was wonderful. But in general, I think we kind of lost touch of reality. Jason and Matt were kind of the ego-driven part of the band, and I got no credit whatsoever in anything, including, and Tom didn't either. And it's funny because even Michael Wagner told me, listen, you're just as much as the sound of this band as those guys are. Your drumming style, the sounds, all that stuff. But that was we were always kind of pushed aside, the bass player and I, and Matt and Jason kind of fueled the thing. Just all the dumb ego crap that you do when you're a kid. You don't know any better. You know, like that they
Yeah.
were the epitome of the egos of just, we had the worst management in history. I still don't call him a manager because he's a crook. He stole from us. You know, it's like we were the poster band of the poster band of what not to do. You know, we got caught up in all that. So one of the decisions was to go to Sweden, and we blew all this money and stuff. And I personally think that the Lizard record sounds awful. It's a terrible sounding record. But you know, it came up with this hit, which put the band on the map. So it's like this double-edged sword. And but ironically, it's a hit that didn't have any drums on it. And to this day, it makes me laugh. You know, it's like my only hit has a cymbal crescendo and a couple of floor tom hits. But it is what it is. And but yeah, we put that out. And you know, we did a video for Hostile Youth. We're in Mexico for 5 days. We're doing this video, and the video is incredible. And then some, you know, program director played "Love Is on the Way," and then it just took off. And what are you supposed to do at that point? But I just remember sitting there going, "All right, well, I got about 6 months now because it'll all be over in 6 months. So we have to ride the wave." And I'm thinking to myself, I got to ride the wave. I got to make the connections. I got to do everything that I can do while people are still taking my phone call, because it's all going to end. And sure enough, it did. And then the singer left. So it was just, you know, it was a nightmare, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that's the way the music business works, you know, but I mean, obviously that wasn't the end of your story. You know, you went on pretty shortly after that to join another fairly successful band of the time, Skid Row, and you spent some time with those guys as well. And, you know, I think you're on one of the criminally underrated Skid Row records, Thick Skin, you know, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good record that, you know, I don't think got the attention that it should have, honestly.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, too, because you mentioned with Saigon Kick, we oddly, this was around when Matt left the band in 93, I think it was, and we did 3 more records without him. And one of them, well, actually, we had hits in Indonesia, like a lot of Asia stuff. Like we literally, the band itself, if we go to Indonesia, we play arenas. And we had the Water record, Devil in the Details, and Bastards. Those were the 3 records. And I'll tell you, Devil in the Details is probably some of my best drumming I've ever done, up until I just did the last, you know, Red Dragon Cartel record with Jakey Lee. Up until then, but even the Thick Skin record that you mentioned, I love that record. I mean, I absolutely love that record, and it's a great record. It's a great song. You know, I'm very proud of the drumming. Steven Hagler was one of the producers on it, who produced Fuel and Jimmy's Chicken Shack and stuff, and a drummer. So it was a lot of fun to work with him. And yeah, that record just kind of, you know, got put to the side, unfortunately. But that's how it goes, you know.
Absolutely. Well, and you know, I mean, one of the things that I really wanted you to kind of touch on as well, you know, I mean, we're trying to help drummers, you know, further their careers here on the show and, you know, learn some tips and tricks of the industry. But, you know, you're one of those guys that really kind of took control of your career in that, you know, it hasn't all been about just being in a band and playing and touring. You know, you got into some other really cool stuff. I mean, you know, you did a full length movie. You know, you did some comedy there for a little while. You know, tell us a little bit about how, you know, a drummer can take control of their career and branch out and do other, you know, really cool stuff.
Well, I think it was a conscious decision when I left Skid Row in '05. And I moved to Los Angeles because I wanted to do stand-up comedy. I was writing at the time. I was writing scripts, and I wanted to act. You know, it was a decision that was great artistically, but awful, you know, financially, because I went broke. Because, you know, I left Skid Row, so that was my income. So I had to kind of live off of my savings, which quickly runs out. You know, and you find yourself, But I wouldn't change a thing because I have to say, doing stand-up comedy was probably the best thing I ever did in my life. Because as a drummer, I was in the back all the time. I was behind a wall of people and sound and all this stuff. And I got a chance to go to the front of the stage. And by doing stand-up, that opened a whole different career of hosting, of creating my own show at the Improv that I did, and it helps with acting and auditions and all that other stuff. So I had some moderate success doing that type of thing. But deep down inside, I just always missed drumming, because it ultimately comes back down to that. And I just was, I just needed to get back into playing. So that whole time that I was in LA and all that stuff, I kind of, took the time to do the acting and all that stuff. But man, I really miss playing. So now, I'm kind of back into it. And I've been playing now for about 3 years, like solid, trying to find gigs and get back into like drummer shape. That's tough to do as well.
Sure.
So that's what I've been doing, in my off time, and of course the radio station that I have now as well. But yeah, I just think that just because you're a drummer doesn't mean you're not an artist. I mean, look at Dave Grohl. He comes out from behind the kit and he writes some of the greatest songs ever. So I don't think that we should be limited to drumming. If we're artists, we're artist brains. So if you can do something else, I would totally do it. Because I only think it's going to help your drumming, in some capacity. I really do. It took my mind off of everything that I hated about the music business, and it made me fall in love with my drums again. And that's something I had to go through in order to play good again, because I was very, pissed off about drums, and I didn't want to know about it, and I hated it, and I hated the people around me. With in the beginning with Saigon and all that stuff. My time at Skid Row was great. I had a really great time with those guys. I really did. It was so much fun, and I got to tour with all my idols. But I was just burned by that point. I was doing a lot of drugs back then and drinking, and it just burned me out. And I just needed a change, and comedy and all that stuff kind of was there for me, and that's why I did it.
Absolutely. Well, and you kind of mentioned your radio show briefly, and tell us a little bit about Unfiltered.
Well, Unfiltered, I used to have a radio show on Sirius, and I really enjoyed radio. I did it for about a year or so, and I was approached about doing another show here in Las Vegas. I went and I tried to do my show there, just called Unfiltered with Phil Varone. And that station was just not the place for me, So I decided, I got a bright idea. Let me just get my own station, which I did. Like now I'm kicking myself in the ass every day. It's fun to get on the air. I mean, I really enjoy radio. I think that it's going to be the end of my career, be on radio. I really believe that because I believe that that's where I should be. And I'm hoping that will happen. So right now, I have unfilteredradio.com. It's an internet station, and just having a good time. We're a 24-hour format. We're adding shows as we speak. But on the side of it, it's a lot of work, and I have other things going on now with drum clinics, and I just did the new Dragon Cartel record with Jake E. Lee. We're gonna that record comes out soon. Then we're going to tour. So there's a lot of stuff happening now this year that's kind of taking me away from the radio. So I'm just enjoying it as I can do it, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you've mentioned Red Dragon Cartel a couple of times here. And, I want to say, folks, if you haven't heard any of this stuff, is it fair for me to say, Phil, that this is classic Jake E. Lee stuff? I mean, the new record is called Patina, and I'm glad to hear that you guys are going to be going out on the road with it. But, tell us a little bit about that project and working with Jake, because, he's a bona fide guitar god.
Yeah, he's a guitar hero. It's funny how I was looking for a gig. This was like a year ago. My buddy Scott Wilson, who plays bass in Saving Abel, he gave me a call, and he goes, "Hey, man, what would you consider your drumming style?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm a drummer. What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, this gig? He's being all like secretive, you know. I said, well, what's the gig? And he goes, well, I can't say who it is. And I was like, well, if you can't say who it is, like, how am I supposed to, like, tell you if I can play this? Because if it's like, you know, Gloria Stefan, I'm going to say, no, I can't play Latin. You know, like, what is the gig? You know, if it's AC/DC, I'd go, yeah, of course. I would love to play that. So he's going back and forth with me. And it's funny, too, because I just saw Scott recently, and I still bust his balls about this, you know, because back and forth, back and forth. Brings up Anthony Esposito, great bass player and producer. And I go, yeah, I know who Anthony is, of course. He goes, okay, well, Anthony is the bass player. And I'm like, okay, so it's a rock band like Lynch Mob, or, you know, like, is it Ace Frehley's band? Because I know, you know,
sure.
Anthony for Ace. And he's like, no, but it's definitely Guitar Hero. I'm like, dude, if you don't tell me who this is, I'm going to strangle you through the phone. I just got down to that, you know. And so he tells me that it's Jake E. Lee. And I was like, oh, well, okay, that'd be amazing, you know. I saw Jake in '83 when he was playing with Ozzy, and Motley was opening. You know, it was like one of my first shows in that in that time. I was a teenager.
Man, that's a hell of a bill right there.
yeah, it was incredible tour. It was the first Motley Crue tour, Shout at the Devil tour, opening for Ozzy. So, you know, then because I'm like, yeah, I would love to know. So Anthony sends me a couple of tunes, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be like work. You know, it's a lot of work here for these songs. I have to learn 10 songs, but they sent me a couple, and I go to rehearsal, and I'm like chopping through them, and I'm sending video of me playing, and you know, I immediately bought my own ticket because I wanted to, you know, audition for the band. So I flew to PA, and Anthony has a farm in PA, and he has the studio is on, you know, on the farm, and we all lived in the house, on his house. So I just walk in to meet Jake at that point. You know, he's a quiet cat, and he had his Jake's schedule is completely backwards. So we rehearsed from like 11 at night till like 4 in the morning, and then he would sleep all day. You know, but I didn't. So I would wake up in the morning like around 9 or whatever, and I'd run into rehearsal, and I would just chop wood and drum all day, all night. Then we'd play, you know, practice the stuff. So about a week goes by, and I'm like, you know, I'm like nervous breakdown here because they didn't tell me if I'm in the band yet. Like I was there for a week playing these songs, like learning all these songs, and finally. We go to this bar, and I'm just sitting there like, you know, stressed out. And the singer goes, dude, what's wrong with you? I'm like, do you know if I'm even in this band or not? I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be sent home tomorrow. I've been here for a week. I'm like losing my mind. And
right, you just want to know what's up, yeah. Yeah,
I'm like, someone's got to say something. And the singer goes, Jake didn't tell you you're in the band yet? I'm like, no. He's like, oh my God, hold on. And he goes over to Jake. And Jake walks over and he goes, hey, you want to be in the band? And I'm like, I go, yeah, man, of course. He goes,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. He's like, well, it's not going to be that much money. I'm like, is there ever any money? I mean, it's about music. He goes, yeah, all right. Well, welcome to the band. It walks away. It was like that.
Yeah.
And this tremendous relief came over me. And Jake and I are such good friends now. He actually lives here in Vegas, so I always, you know, we always go out and stuff. But it was funny because, you know, when you join a band and you don't know people, it's, you know, it's kind of that breaking in period. You know?
For sure.
It's Jake's band, okay? Make no bones about it. He's the boss.
Right.
If whatever he says goes. That's the way it goes. And I actually enjoy that because that leaves no decision making for me whatsoever.
You just have to show up and play well, right? I mean,
well, yeah, and that was hard enough because, so I got the gig, I flew home, and then we were going to start recording drum tracks. So they fly me back, and I get in the studio. We get a drum sound in like 10 minutes. Anthony's like a genius in the studio. I just got my new D drum kit. You know, they sent them out to me, and I got dream cymbals. Like, I'm all excited about all this stuff. And I think I know the songs. So we go into the studio at like 11 o'clock at night, as usual. And, you know, after I've been, just playing drums all day, and we record the first song. And now, because they can hear all the drums, because in rehearsal everything was so loud, Jake was like on 20, they really couldn't hear the drums too well. So then we started doing drum pre-production.
Sure.
So, and Jake's thing is that no edits. So you have to play it through. That's the way it goes. So there was nothing. There would be a punch in here and there, but no we're not editing the track. You have to play from start to finish, and then we'll analyze the track. And if it's one thing is off, we'll punch that or whatever. But it was definitely not like how people record these days, where they play a verse and then they fly those in.
Man,
that's just like,
that's so refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
So I've always been a big fan of Jake, and to hear that he does that way makes me feel even better.
Yeah. So he's a musical guy. In fact, we tuned the drums, the heads to each song to the key. The snare was the note, the root note of the song, and then the toms we tuned in key of the note. So like the snare drum itself was, because it's so loud and there at all times, it had to be the same note as the of the song. So I got through great takes, and they'd be like, "Oh, the snare just came untuned." I'm like,
man.
Yeah. But it's funny that he had his things. There were certain things. We changed probably 5 things per song, 10 songs. So there was about 50 different drum parts that he came up with. A brilliant mind for drumming, which most guitar players aren't, but he is.
Right.
He's worked with some incredible drummers too. So when you think about it, he definitely, I listened to everything he had to say. And I actually got him screaming like of joy twice.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Anthony goes, dude, cherish those, because you don't get those. And one of them was this one song that he wanted, this great Bill Ward break that I can't wait for people to hear, because it's just like sick Bill Ward, toms everywhere, drumsticks clacking, rims getting hit. He loves that. Like, he was all about that, the organic drumming, And Anthony is a purist, so he's like, no, like, we can't have a sticks clacking. And Jake's like, what are you, crazy? Like, it's great. It's music. It's like Hendrix, like when they used to do it in the old days. And that's how this record is. It's like 70s Cactus, Hendrix, Black Sabbath.
That's cool.
Definitely not like Jake, when you were saying is a classic Jake. No, it's not. It's actually, they gave me drummers to listen to get a feel. One of them was, of course, Carmine Appice on the Cactus stuff, right. Bill Ward on Black Sabbath stuff, and all Hendrix stuff. Like, that was the basic, the drumming that they wanted to hear, which is outside of my comfort zone. But they also allowed me to play the way I do, which was with toms and world beats and all that kind of stuff. So, and I told Jake, I was laughing when I heard that Bill Ward stuff. I looked at him and I go, you have some really great ideas, and I'm taking all the damn credit. The hell with you. And I said, you just got me on the cover of Modern Drummer. I'm telling you right now, and I am not even going to mention that you came up with half of this stuff, And we were laughing, but man, that's what it was. He pushed me to the limits. There was one night that I actually was going to give up. I recorded 4 songs. I couldn't get the 5th song. We went in, we did it. I sat there and I'm talking to myself in my bedroom, and Anthony heard me and he's like, dude, relax. I'm like, I know he's going to send me home. This is ridiculous. I can't even play he's like, will you just relax? You're getting in your brain. And I was just losing my shit. And I just remember being in the studio, and I'm like, I just can't, I'm not going to get this. You know how you get in your head, like the minute you just come down on yourself, and then the reality was like, oh my God, I got Anthony Esposito on bass, I got Jakey Lee on guitar, and what am I doing here? Like, all that stuff started going, you know, which is the worst thing that can happen to you. And I'm trying to get this part, and I can't. It's not even registering in my head. Like it's like I never played drums before, and we're just going over and over and trying to do this thing, and they're running tape and they're doing this, and I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm getting irritated and crazy, and then I hear the door open in the studio, and I'm like, okay, here it comes. Jake is just going to unload on me right now, and I'm like bracing for impact, and Jake just walks over and he goes, hey man, just play the drums. It's just music. You just play the drums. Stop thinking about it. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Play. And walks away. Calm, like that. Like just total, because he's never raised his voice, ever. I've known him for, a little over a year now. He's so calm and just to the point, and, and I go, okay. And he went inside and I nailed it. And that's how it works. That's, again, when you're dealing in the studio, kind of like what Michael Wagner did for me, that's what Jake did for me. And with that, I have the best drumming I've ever done in my whole career on this new record. It's pretty incredible, actually.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, I think it's, where, preparation and opportunity meet, right? I mean, it's when you get into a situation like that and somebody says, hey man, it's okay. Just go in there and do your thing. When you let go of all that mental garbage, the pressure that you're putting on yourself, the, overthinking it, sometimes you just got to let go and let the sticks fly. And that's typically when everybody does their best playing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but also too, for me, it was kind of like, I did some shows with Bobby Kimball from Toto, so I had to play the Toto stuff. So that was a bit, intimidating. But with Jake, it's like, it was, this is a band opportunity. This is like, he's the guitar god. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. It went from, wow, I can't do this to, of course I can do this. And now it's like, yeah, now I have the confidence to the point where, fans ask me, like, what are you doing these days? I'm like, I'm playing with Jake E. Lee. They're like, oh, well, okay. It's like that because they know. And, and it's funny. I just did, NAMM was 2 weeks ago. And I played the Bonzo Bash at NAMM, which was incredible.
It's a great event.
I played Fool in the Rain, of course, because that's what I had to do. And then I played the Ultimate Jam, NAMM Jam, which was on Saturday, and I was playing with Don Dokken. And George Lynch decides that he wants to play. So, then George pops up there. So now it's like it's like this guitar god thing. And even when I was talking to George, he goes, you're playing with Jake, right? I go, yeah. He's like, oh, that's cool. Like even the guitarists are like, yeah, I got you.
For sure.
It's yeah. It's like that kind of thing. But they also kind of puts you in a level. And that's why I'm so excited to tour, because, Jake is going to attract the greatest musicians that are going to come out and see the band. And we as a band know this, and we need to be that much better, as a band, to play this stuff. And quite frankly, they sent me 3 tracks just to listen to it, and I tried playing them in rehearsal, and I really don't know them again. I have to relearn my drum parts because they're hard.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, drumming is hard. Yeah. It's so funny, man. And and I just came from rehearsal. As I told you, I'm learning. I have, for my drum clinics, I have old Saigon kick stuff on tape without the drum mixes. So I get to play to the Saigon kick stuff, and I pick some really hard stuff. And it's hard. I'm like, I got to get the feel again of stuff that I recorded 20 plus years ago. It's really funny, because I look back and I go, oh, I would have played that better. But then I'm trying to play it now. I'm like, well, maybe this was actually pretty good back then. But it kind of stands the test of time.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, we all evolve as players, and it's even when I listen to stuff that I did, 15, 20 years ago, sometimes I have that cringeworthy moment where I say, gosh, I wish I'd have done that differently. And then there are other times when I say, well, I probably wouldn't play it that way now, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I think it's cool to revisit that stuff. So, Phil, tell us, I know the record, the Red Dragon Cartel record is going to be coming out here pretty soon. When can we expect to start seeing some of those tour dates, and what is the scope of the tour? Are you guys going to be out for a long time, or are you trying to put together your own tour? Just give us some details around that if you don't mind.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I really don't have any, because it's the last I heard, we were talking about doing something after summer.
Okay.
I really, again, this is when it comes down to, I'm just a drummer, as dumb as that sounds, but it really is, because it's Jake's band. So I kind of wait for, Anthony to tell me what's going on, or Jake, or whatever. I mean, like last night they sent me the new logo with the kick drum, the new kick drum logo, and the patina cover. Like, so they're sending me that stuff, and telling me what's going on. But as far as touring, I don't really know. It really comes down to Jake, how much he wants to tour, and if we do get a tour. One of the cool things with Jake is that it's Jake E. Lee, so he definitely will get the opportunity to, put the band in front of big bands, so we're kind of hoping for a tour like that. And if that's the case, then we're at the mercy of that band, so we would be out on the road for as long as that. So
Right.
All those things are up in the air. I'm just kind of waiting and hoping that we start touring soon, because I can't wait to, one, get it back on the road, but two, play these songs, and then the fans are going to love this stuff. And I think we're playing 4 songs off the first record, so which is going to be fun as well, because they're really cool tunes. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a good time when you guys get out there. Phil, I know I promised I wouldn't keep you too long. Just one final question, if I may.
Yeah.
We ask everybody that comes on the show, we've got a lot of great guys and gals that listen to the show. Give us your one best piece of advice for drummers.
For drummers, and the same thing I always tell, when it comes down to studio stuff, and playing within a song, that you play for the song. It's not about you. It's about the band. And in a case like me, where I'm hired, you listen to the boss and you take it in. But if I had one thing, and again, what I went through, which was playing to click tracks and learning groove with a click and understanding the groove. I think that is what bands miss so much. In this day and age, when everyone's doing programming and all this other stuff, the feels are so gone in these bands. To me, it's all about the feel, and it doesn't have to be perfect, I mean, the greatest drum tracks in history are not perfect. John Bonham, Bill Ward, Carmine Appice, like the Alex Van Halen. These are incredible drum takes that are not perfect. It's all about the feel. And don't get caught up in trying to out-drum your guy. Do what you do great, because that's what I do. Because I know the guy next to me can out-drum me in 2 seconds. I see 12-year-old girls that can out-drum me, as far as, it's incredible, the kids today. But so what I do is what I do, my style, great, and that gets you the gigs. Because if somebody loves your style and you do it great, you will be hired, and you will play that, and you will get fans, and you will get the respect.
Absolutely. So, Phil, tell us where we can find all the goings on in your world. I know you have a web address. Can you give that to us so we can track you down out there in cyberspace?
Sure. Yeah, it's just philvarone.com. Everything's on there. All my social media links are on there as well. All my schedule. I got a drum clinic coming up in Fort Collins, Colorado on March 3rd. All my appearances, everything's on there. I have a new merchandise line as well. So philvarone.com for everything. And also as a contact as well. So if you want to send me some emails, whatever, you can get me through the website.
Awesome. Phil, thank you so much for coming on the Drum Shuffle. We really appreciate it. We'd love to have you back sometime. After the Red Dragon Cartel tour wraps up, come back and tell us how it went and what lies in store for you after that chapter.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right, Phil, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thank you, man.
All right, bye-bye. So as you can hear there, we had a little bit of a connection issue with the telephone during the first half of our interview with Phil, and I do apologize for that. We did our best to get that cleaned up for you. I didn't want to not publish this episode simply because Phil's insights into expanding our horizons and trying different things to further our careers as drummers was certainly a great point, and I wanted to share that with you. It does happen when you're doing live interviews. Sometimes you have a bad connection, and stuff just happens. So again, our apologies for the poor audio on Phil's end of the telephone conversation. Please keep reaching out to us via email. We can be reached at the drumshufflepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on the website, thedrumshuffle.com. You can also find me over at jamieeads.com. Take just a moment out of your busy schedule, if you would please. Give us a star rating on whatever service you're using to listen to the show. Write us a review. We really do appreciate it, and it does help us to continue to grow, which is the goal for the Drum Shuffle. So, until next time, may your head stay strong and your sticks never break. Cheers.